Hare All glories to the Son of God. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Chaitanya Manogistam Stapitam Janamukare Swayam Bhukadam Yamdharati Svapadantikam Panchakaparu Yascha Kripas Devacha Patitam Pavanekyo Vaishnavekyo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shiva Sajito Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So, today we will continue with our topic on Bhagavad Gita, but it's going to be a practical course, which we have done some time back in Sydney. Some of you have taken part in it, if you remember. But it's always a fresh topic because there is always war going on. Bhagavad Gita is always relevant in our lives because, as Srila Prabhupada would say, struggle for existence, human race, the only hope is divine grace. And so, the same thing Krishna says in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke, Jyogata Sanatana, Manashastani Prakritistani Dashati, that all the living entities in this world are parts of Krishna, but because of their propensity to lord it over the material nature, they always struggle very hard with the mind and the senses. Struggle with the material nature. And so, this war is perpetual, and therefore the instructions of Bhagavad Gita are also perpetual, and there are always new features of war emerging. There are always new challenges, and this war has material dimension and spiritual dimension, right? Material dimension is that we struggle for existence, but spiritual dimension is that we fight for Krishna, right? And so both things have to go on. We're gonna have to fight anyway, so that's the idea behind. And we're gonna die anyway. But if we fight for Krishna, then we can please Krishna and we can become immortal already in this lifetime. So that's the good news for us. As Prabhupada was once saying, deathlessness begins at the moment of initiation. And so the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are dedicated to karma yoga, which means acting for Krishna, how to dedicate all our activities for Krishna. Sometimes people are saying, what's the difference between karma yoga, bhakti yoga and jnana yoga? And the difference is very simple, that karma yoga is what you do externally for Krishna. Bhakti yoga is your devotion, internal state, right? And jnana yoga is knowing how to do it, knowing how to please Krishna. So all these things are, all these 3 types of yoga are working in unison with each other, and you can't really separate them. And karma yoga specifically is meant for pleasing Krishna, and we can please Krishna by achieving success in different aspects of our lives, and then dedicate this success to Krishna. This is what the Bhagavad Gita is about, right? That spiritual life does not mean giving up all types of activities, as Bhagavad Gita explains, and renouncing everything, and becoming disgusted with the material world or something like that, and then achieving love for Krishna. No, it's not like that. Actually, the real approach is to dedicate everything we would normally use for ourselves, for our pleasure, but do it for Krishna. And so this is the message of Bhagavad Gita, in the same way as Arjuna didn't want to fight for his own sense gratification, because he was thinking that fighting is material. But when he realized that Krishna wants him to fight, then he dedicated his professional activity to Krishna, his nature for Krishna's service. In the same way we have our natures, we have certain abilities and qualities, and in the same way, instead of ignoring or rejecting all this as being material, the message of Bhagavad Gita is very practical, that we dedicate it all to Krishna, right? That basically people in this world are struggling to achieve 3 things, right? And the first one is wealth, second one is position in life, career, and third one is fame. And so there is a controversy between religionists and materialists, right? Materialists, they try to achieve all these things for their self-gratification. And religionists, they say, oh, it's all material, we're not interested in that. But Krishna conscious philosophy is called Achintya Bheda Veda Tattva, which is simultaneous oneness and difference. And so oneness means we do everything people in the material world do, make money, and strive to achieve high position in human society. Of course, for that you require good education, right? And you require to make certain effort. And then, of course, getting good name, and of course fame is very rare achievement. This is like the topmost achievement in human life, so not many people can get there. But it's also good. If you can do that, you can do it for Krishna. Because once you have fame, you can use it for Krishna very successfully. And so, therefore, Krishna consciousness is the only process which can help people to understand how can they use their propensities and abilities in a natural way for Krishna, and in this way advance, interestingly enough, both materially and spiritually at the same time. But because devotee's interest naturally is in pleasing Krishna, then even though devotee would be very successful materially also, he would not be interested to use that for his own pleasure. Automatically, he would lose taste for all these things. And so, in this way, Krishna consciousness process is not an, as Prabhupada says, it's not an artificial imposition on the mind, right? That's its natural. That the more you develop taste for Krishna consciousness, the more you become renounced automatically. Means you lose taste for sense gratification, right? But you do not renounce these things artificially, just despising and criticizing them. No, you give them to Krishna, right? This is real renunciation. When you have everything in life and you're not using anything for yourself, and you're only using it for Krishna, right? And we have many interesting, outstanding examples of that. I was thinking about one lately. It's actually in Calcutta. There is one couple, elderly couple, Bhattacharya's husband and wife, and they're actually very wealthy people. They are multimillionaires. And they, on regular basis, they give very large donations to Mayapur and Calcutta temple as well. And they are constantly glorified for their generosity. But their response is that, why do we have to be glorified? Because it's not ours anyway. It's all Krishna's. So, and the only reason we don't give everything, because we have that kind of karma to, use money in such a way that we get good profit. We multiply this wealth. And so while we're alive, we use that for Krishna, to make more money for Krishna. But it all belongs to Krishna anyway. It's not ours. We're just using it, we're just managing it on Krishna's behalf, on Radha Madhava's behalf. And they're not only saying that it's not ours, it's not Krishna. Their whole lifestyle is a proof of that, because they have very humble abode, very humble place they live in. They don't have any children. And so, if Calcutta temple devotees are inviting them to come to the temple for whatever reason, they have to send temple car to bring them, because they don't have any car. They use taxi for traveling, right? Being multimillionaires. And so, and actually in their will, they already given all their wealth to Radha Madhava. They said, we don't have any children, so Radha Madhava Astasaki and Prahlad Nrsimhadev and Panchatattva, these are our children. So it all belongs to them. So this is one of the examples how this is happening. And so, in the same way as people in this world are trying to reach to the topmost level in their, whatever advancement, say like in knowledge, the topmost level is PhD, right? And so we're also striving for PhD in Krishna consciousness. What is the PhD in Krishna consciousness? It's pure-hearted devotion. So this is what we want. And we see these examples. And Bhagavad Gita is teaching us the way how can we achieve that pure-hearted devotion by actually dedicating everything to Krishna. Manasadeva Gero Yogishumor Arpimunto Padenanda Kishore. As Bhakti says, that Krishna, everything I dedicate in your service. My mind, my body, and everything I have. And so, Bhagavad Gita is teaching us how to do that. And it's Yoga Shastra. And because it's Yoga Shastra, it is using the traditional yoga model for introducing us to Krishna consciousness. Actually, every chapter of Bhagavad Gita is entitled Yoga. If you look at the original Sanskrit titles. And so, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, there are 8 stages of yoga outlined, and these are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So first 2 are Yama and Niyama. So what is Yama? Yeah, rules. What does literally Yama means? Who is Yamaraj? Yama means death, right? Because Yamaraj is the Lord of death. So anything which leads us to death, anything which leads to ruination, so that has to be avoided, right? So these are the rules. Like for prerogative principles, right? We abstain from all these sinful activities because they ruin us. And the niyama is opposite, right? Something which helps in our development, and of course the most important thing in niyama is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Because this is the basis, the foundation for serving Krishna. And then asana. Asana means posture, certain posture, but it can also refer to a position, a beneficial position in life. And pranayama. Pranayama means breathing exercises, but it can also means living, proper living, right? Because you living as long as you breathe. As simple as that. Once you stop breathing, you stop living. So pranayama actually refers to life, proper lifestyle as well. And then pratyahara, controlling, sense control, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, and samadhi, full absorption, and so. In this part, first 6 chapters of Yoga of Success, we've selected certain topics from these chapters which are in line with these yoga stages in order to make it natural. And so, yama, the first stage, is to get over everything negative in life. And so, the negativity is basically connected to 3 things, as it is highlighted many times in Bhagavad Gita. Many times Bhagavad Gita speaks about what we have to give up. And so these are attachments, fear, and anger. And the niyama, or positive element, is of course spiritual advancement, which is focused on understanding Krishna and having faith in Krishna, but one interesting point is that Krishna doesn't start his teachings in Bhagavad Gita from this point. He doesn't start from explaining about himself. Interestingly enough, he starts in the second chapter from explaining about us, explaining that we are not material body, but we are spiritual beings. And so faith, which is a positive aspect of our development, should compulsory include believing in ourselves as spiritual beings, different from material body. So this is where we're starting from. Unless we believe in ourselves as spiritual beings, we cannot really properly believe, develop our faith in Krishna, etc. And then asana, or proper position in life, which is outlined in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, is yajna, which means not just a religious ritual, but as Prabhupada explains in the purport, any activity meant for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord is yajna, right? When you act not for yourself, as you would normally do, but you sacrifice your interests for the sake of pleasing Krishna, Guru and Vaishnavas, right? So that's yajna, anything. And then pranayama, real life, is the life of responsibility in Krishna consciousness. When we actually take responsibility for serving the Lord. And then dharana, withdrawing your senses from sense objects, means you're focused on the goal, and that goal is pleasing Krishna. And so that's dharana, pratyahara and dharana both. And so dhyana and samadhi is outlined in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, of course, Dhyana Yoga. And so dhyana means to develop your intuitive power, means to connect with the Lord in your heart. And so from that point onwards, the real devotional service begins. And so these 6 chapters are dedicated to Karma Yoga, but then from next chapter onwards, there is Bhakti Yoga. And of course, Bhakti Yoga starts with a really different process, which is Shravan Kirtan, 9 processes of devotional service. And so, the point or the purpose of this course, specific course, many devotees have taken that, but it was done in kind of haphazard way, and I'm sure that most of you have missed most of the parts of it anyway. So we're giving you the outline, because this is something I've worked on developing for a number of years. And so the idea is to introduce Bhagavad Gita not as philosophical treatise, but moreover as a practical manual for human life. Not just for, ISKCON devotees, not just for Hare Krishnas, not just for Vaishnavas, and not even for religious people, but for anyone who is thoughtful enough to understand, how things are working in one's life. And I've done the experiment, I've taught that course to different people, like yoga practitioners, hatha yoga practitioners, and also professional psychologists, and they really appreciated that because they gained a lot of benefit from that. So I really believe that what Prabhupada was highlighting, that the future of this movement will conquer the world through two things. Anyone knows what are the two aspects Srila Prabhupada was highlighting as potentially capable of conquering the whole world? Huh? Not just chanting. Huh?
Prasadam?
Prasadam is also part of it. And chanting is also part of it. But he was highlighting two very important aspects. And these are parts of the activities, but he was highlighting two important categories. One, yes. Huh? This is quality, but not the activity. One is education, and another one is culture. So this is what Srila Prabhupada said, right? That Krishna consciousness will conquer the world through these two things, culture and education, right? And education, as you're probably noticing, education and personal development becomes very, very popular nowadays, right? That there are so many courses outside which are focused on transformation more than just an information, right? And so people paying a lot of money to attend those courses because they are helping people to transform their lives, to change their lives for better, achieve better results, improve their relationships, discipline, and other aspects of life. And so, actually, I've attended few of those courses, and I can tell you that whatever these courses are teaching, and people paying crazy amounts of money, for that, like hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars they pay, just for a few days of the course. And I can tell you, Bhagavad Gita has so much more. It's like what they give, it's just, few tiny little drops from what Bhagavad Gita has. But it's just packaged in such a way that it becomes very attractive, right? And so this is my aspiration to present Bhagavad Gita in such a way that people would actually gain transformation which is beyond what they can gain through any of those courses, right? And so what I'm teaching is, different elements of that, different personal development techniques connected to the themes of Bhagavad Gita, very organically connected too. And for no charge. You can have it for free. Of course, donations are always welcome, but you're not, you can be spared from wasting hundreds of dollars, but at the same time you can gain something which you wouldn't even get on those courses through these techniques. And of course, I have some professional background in applied psychology. For the past maybe 10 years I'm practicing what is called mediation. Mediation means helping to resolve conflicts as a mediator, right? And so studying professional literature connected to that. And my conclusion is that Bhagavad Gita is the greatest mediation handbook ever available, right, in the history of this world. Because there is one simple thing, that you cannot stop conflicts. If someone have read or heard, or today there is a course on life without conflict, so let me come and maybe I can resolve all my conflicts. I have a bad news for you. It's not possible. But nevertheless, conflicts will always be there. And I can give you one example, one simple example, that within our bodies there are more than 2,000 types of different bacteria which can cause very troublesome diseases, right? But where are they? Despite of that, I hope so. Why is that? Because there is a immunity system, and as long as immunity is strong, no matter what's going on inside of you, no matter what kind of bacteria you have, you're going to be healthy. And so in the same way, this is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us, in a real sense. It is teaching us how to remain immune, right? To whatever is happening in this material world. And it's not that only we can be immune to every single trouble, but we can also teach other people how to remain immune. And so this is, and then you can live in the life which is full of conflicts, and yet have no conflict in your life, right? In the morning we are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, and so right now we are in the particular section where Prahlad Maharaj is speaking to Hiranyakashipu. Jai Prabhu ki jai. So he's one of the renowned personal developers, professional in that field. We have more and more devotees doing that. And so Prahlad Maharaj is was attacked a number of times by his own father, who was trying to kill him, talking about the conflict, right? He had very serious conflict in his life, and nevertheless he was completely undisturbed. It didn't bother him at all. And Hiranyakashipu could do nothing for him, no matter how hard he tried. So here we have, a perfect example of a devotee who is in the middle of a serious conflict, right? And he's completely not bothered by it at all. And it's not that all these stories are given just, to give some examples that it's something unattainable. No, it is attainable. We can attain that stage if we understand how to do it. And so this is the first step, to eliminate every single conflict from inside of ourselves, right? That have complete peace and harmony in us. And so then we would not be bothered by anything, whatever is happening. And this is one of the verses, this is what one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita is explaining. This is chapter 2, text 56, which we will read in a minute. But if any of you have any questions in regards to what we've already mentioned, you're welcome to ask. Otherwise, we'll proceed. Okay, so, yes, bro.
So, could you please explain a little bit what you meant by no detour?
By?
No detour. You mentioned something about loading it over.
Lording over. Lording over. What did I mention in regards to lording over? Or lording over the material nature? Yeah, this tendency is there. I mean, this is the reason for every single problem we have. Every problem is there because of that tendency to desire to control material nature. And so once we become free from that, then there will be no conflict. Then yeah, pretty much Prahlad Maharaj is the model for that. He didn't have that tendency. He was not looking to achieve anything in this world. He just wanted to serve Krishna, Lord Vishnu, and so. Therefore, he was completely immune, was completely protected from all the troubles like that. Okay, so we'll read the text and the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Let's chant the invocation mantra first. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Dukkesham vignamanaha sukkeshu vigataspriha vitaragavaya krodha stita demonyaruchyate. Translation. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear and anger, is called the sage of steady mind. Purport. The word muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It's said that every muni has a different angle of vision, and unless a muni differs from other munis, he cannot be called a muni in the strict sense of the term. But the Stitadir Muni, as mentioned here in by the Lord, is different from an ordinary muni. The Stitadir Muni is always in Krishna consciousness, for he has exhausted all his business of creative speculation. He is called Prashanta Nishesha Ratantara, or one who has surpassed the stage of mental speculation and has come to the conclusion that Lord Shri Krishna or Vasudeva is everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. He is called a Muni fixed in mind. Such a fully Krishna conscious person is not at all disturbed by the onslaughts of the threefold miseries, for he accepts all miseries as the mercy of the Lord, thinking himself only worthy of more trouble due to his past misdeeds, and he sees that his miseries, by the grace of the Lord, are minimized to the lowest. Similarly, when he is happy, he gives credit to the Lord, thinking himself unworthy of the happiness. He realizes that it's due only to the Lord's grace that he is in such a comfortable condition and able to render better service to the Lord. And for the service of the Lord, he is always daring and active, and is not influenced by attachment or aversion. Attachment means accepting things for one's own sanctification, and attachment is the absence of such sensual attachment. But one fixed in Krishna consciousness is neither attachment nor detachment, because his life is dedicated in the service of the Lord. Consequently, he is not at all angry even when his attempts are unsuccessful. Success or no success, a Krishna conscious person is always steady in determination. End of the purport. So this is a very deep text. I mean, even though this is one sentence only, but it gives us such a depth of information. Dukesha nudignamana sukesha vigatas priha vitaraga vayakrodha stita muni. So, first thing mentioned, Dukesha nudignamana. Dukkha, when we have problems, you have to be equiposed, right? And that is something which naturally we would be interested, right? How many of you would like to be equiposed no matter what happens to you? Okay. So that's kind of natural. But then the next point mentioned is really strange. Sukheshu vigatas priha. One should not be elated in happiness, right? And why is that? You know, it's kind of strange, right? that why should not be glad when there is happiness, right? Yeah, it's actually dangerous. That one man won a lottery ticket, won a lot of money on the lottery ticket, and he became so happy that he died out of heartache. And the other man, he got promotion, in the army. He became an officer, high rank officer, and he, was due to receive so many different benefits from that. And he was so happy that he rolled over his head and he broke his neck and became paralyzed from neck down. So we should not lose our head due to happiness as well. So that's the idea, right? Be equiposed, no matter what's happening to you. Learn to tolerate. It's interesting, right? We have to learn to tolerate not only misery, but happiness as well, right? So that's the idea. And then, for that sake, we have to become free. The word vita means freedom. So we have to become free from three things, which are raga, bhaya, and krodha. And these three are really connected to each other, right? That if I'm really attached to anything, right? Even like any piece of clothes, and I'll always be afraid maybe something will happen, right? To my attachment. And then naturally, whatever we are worried about, it will happen. That something will happen according to what we're afraid of. And then we'll become angry, right? Why this happened? Well, because it was supposed to happen anyway. But the problem is that it's not happening according to our plans, right? It's happening according to just the arrangement of destiny. But we're not agreeing with that, right? So this is the problem, that we have our plans, and oftentimes whatever is happening in our lives, disturbs us and makes us angry. Any of you have that experience, that something is not going according to your plan and you become irritated, agitated, or maybe even angry? Anyone have that experience? Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. And so, why this is happening? This is important to understand why this is happening. That our plan is interrupted or disrupted because somebody else's plan is executed, right? And of course we will always point finger at someone who disrupted our plans, but if you think a little bit deeper about it, ultimately whose plan is executed or who disrupts our plans? Huh? Our karma, and if we go even deeper than that, who is the ultimate controller, who is executing this topmost plan? Yes, everyone understands, it's Krishna, right? And so if we have problems, any problem in our life, whom do we have problem with? Huh? That's really important to understand, right? If we are unhappy with anyone or anything, whom we are unhappy with. If we have any conflict in life, whom do we have conflict with? It's Krishna. So this is why it's the first step to make, to become free from that. And so, now we can discuss it a little bit, right? How many of you want to become free from that tendency to become disturbed or irritated or angry or agitated? So, probably the natural question, how to do it, right? Well, there are different ways, and I remember a few years back, that was actually quite a few years back, maybe 5 or 6 years at least. When did you leave London? Do you remember? Another group.
Sorry.
You remember?
London?
Yeah, when did you leave London? When did you move?
To Australia?
Yeah.
2005.
Oh, okay, so actually happened, nearly 10 years back. Yeah, and so actually just, learned mediation, and I was practicing mediation, and, for that I had to bring the two parties together and let them discuss their problem with each other. And I discovered one difficulty that, one party, in the conflict scenario you always have two roles, one who is winning in the conflict and one who is losing, right? We can call the losing party victim, and we can call the winning party aggressor, right? And I discovered that it's, the victim is always interested to, settle things, but the aggressor is not, because he or she is on the winning side, so there is no stimulant. And so, as a mediator, I had so much headache trying to convince aggressors to come and discuss and settle things. And I was asking Damodar Prabhu, is there any system within the personal development which allows, just to help the victim to get out of that victim's mentality? And he recommended me a book which really helped me to understand. And so, actually, the very simple exercise we can do is based on the essences of all these resolving technologies. And it's perfectly in line with the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad Gita. And even though it may sound really simple, but it's actually very effective and quite advanced. You will discover interesting things, that the most advanced things are very simple, actually. And so it can actually be utilized in terms of solving any problem you have. Right? How many of you are interested in that, in solving any problems? Okay. And when there is problem in life, or when there is somebody, most of the time it is somebody causing problem in our life, right? But then to point finger at that person, right? And sometimes, if this is like the circumstances, sometimes we point finger at Krishna also. We say, Krishna, what happened? Why are you doing that to me, right? But then one finger is pointing outwardly and 3 fingers are pointing at us. And so, it's very important to understand what is the message of these 3 fingers. And so you can use that system of 3 fingers to actually solve any problem you want to solve. Of course, sometimes there are problems which people don't want to solve. You know, some people are really enjoying being victims. You know why is that? Why someone would enjoy a victim mentality?
Sympathy.
Huh?
To gain sympathy from them.
Sympathy. Yeah. It gives sympathy, you know, people might actually help, and, you know, then there is no, you know, one may avoid taking responsibility for the situation, right? And sometimes it's quite profitable not to take any responsibility because there is no risk involved too. And so there are many reasons, but actually the victim role is very harmful if you think about it, and so it's very important to become free from that. Anyway, so the first, the three fingers are the three questions we have to really ask ourselves, and so you can, you know, do that exercise for yourself, and we'll have printouts for you later, so that you would have something to take away and practice later as well. But for now, you can practice it for yourself. Like, think of any problem you have and you want to solve, any conflict in your life which you want to solve. And so what are the three fingers teaching us? So the first finger is the first question we have to ask ourselves. And the question is, how am I causing this problem for myself? And this is something we don't want to think, right? We want to think that problem has nothing to do with me. But it's interesting, we say it's my problem, and we want to ignore the fact that it's our problem, right? Even though we admit it's my problem, but at the same time we want to say that it's done unto me. Right? But actually, without, and it's not to say that it's only our fault. It's not like that. You know, if someone's causing us problem, definitely that party is is also responsible. But without our involvement, it would never be a problem. And again, you know, like examples of Prahlad Maharaj and Ambarish Maharaj and all the other great devotees are showing, you know, people trying to do so many problems, create so many problems to them, they just don't accept these problems, and so they're free from that. And so, in order to have problem or clash in our life, we need to cause it to ourselves. And the simple example is clap, right? You need two hands to make a clap. So if you remove one hand, there is no clap. So if you remove yourself, the problem is removed. The problem is solved. But it's pretty hard to admit to ourselves that yes, I am causing this problem to myself. Without my involvement, it would not be able to exist. Right? And so, how do I cause my problem? By action. There are certain things I do or I say which I'm not supposed to do or I'm not supposed to say. And sometimes it can be things I'm not doing or I'm not saying when I'm supposed to do or when I'm supposed to say something. It also causes trouble. Sometimes it's both. Right? So this is the first finger. And second finger is second question, which is even more challenging. even deeper. And so this question is, how do I delude myself? How would I cheat myself? Because, being conditioned souls, and if we have any problems in life, it means we are conditioned souls. Being conditioned souls, we are influenced by illusion. And so illusion, how do we put ourselves in illusion? By convincing ourselves of two things. And one is, I'm doing nothing wrong. I am completely perfect. Right? And it's interesting that theoretically we may say, oh yes, I am imperfect. But when it comes to the circumstances, we will say, no, in this particular circumstances, I'm doing everything perfectly. Right? So this is how Maya works. And so this is the sub-question, am I perfect? What am I, what I'm not telling myself? What kind of problems I'm dodging, right, or avoiding? And second sub-question is, am I just a helpless victim? And sometimes these two can match perfectly, amazingly enough, like I am a perfect victim of the circumstances, right? I am perfectly helpless, or I'm helplessly perfect. Something like that. It's amazing how these things can match in real life. And what I've noticed in devotees that we can understand philosophy perfectly, and we can even explain it to others, but when it comes to our personal life, we fail. It's amazing how it's happening. And so, if we answer these two questions, then the third question becomes very easy. And it's a natural question, what to do? So what can or should I do to solve it? Right? To resolve this problem. And then sub-question is, when and how will I do it? Taking responsibility, right? So that's about it for now. If anyone has any questions in that regard, let me ask a question first. Anyone thought about any problem for yourself and tried to apply these questions? We will not be asking you, don't worry, what is the problem? It can remain confidential, just for curiosity's sake. Did you do that? If anyone had done that exercise in relation to any of the problem with the questions here? Anyone? Okay. So, did it work? To some extent, right?
To some extent.
Okay. Many times we will find more than one answer to each of those questions. Because the layers of the conditioning are, we have a lot of layers of conditioning. Anyone has any questions? Yes, Dhruv.
Probably in regards to the resolve, the first question is how I am part of this problem, or like how I am causing this problem, sort of thing. But it's not necessary that you're always part of that. You're part of the problem, but you're not something who is responsible for creating that problem. It's not always the case, right? Someone else is exploiting you, for example, or someone else is trying to dominate you, or a third party is an issue. It's not you. So basically, how do we apply that question? Just the first question is not something that makes sense.
Yeah, how do I cause my problem? Sometimes it doesn't look like I do anything, right? Yeah, I mean, there are so many problems in this world, right? For example, Saddam Hussein, right? Where is it? In Iran, Iraq? Iraq, yeah. And so, basically, one who committed terrible atrocities to so many people, right? We can say, acted in demonic ways. And so, somehow, we hear the news and we're not really compelled to jump on the first flight and go and sort him out, right? Or someone like that, But if we come to the Sunday feast to the temple and somehow, the devotee who is serving prasadam missed us out, giving us some nice preparation, we think, oh, he or she is worse than Saddam Hussein. It's a very simple example, but it helps us to understand that, if we have inside problem, if we have any type of negativity inside of ourselves, it means it is our problem. Yes?
And the answer for the same question was we need to remove ourselves from that problem. That is what we think, right? We have to remove it if we are the cause. So does it mean is it referring to being tolerant, or what's the answer? Is it referring to something particular, or being tolerant whatever happens?
Oh, it's more than tolerance. Thank you. It's a very good question. Actually, tolerance and forgiveness, this is something what many people are teaching outside, for resolving. But Vaishnava way is, tolerance and forgiveness belongs to model goodness, but Vaishnava approach is transcendence. We have to learn how to transcend these things. Because, again, in regards to, our model personalities like Prahlad Maharaj or Ambarish Maharaj and any other saintly personalities, you can read the whole 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. You will not find one statement of Prahlad Maharaj, right? And Hiranyakashipu did so many horrible things to him. And you will not find one verse where Prahlad Maharaj says, okay, Father, I will forgive you for all the bad things you've done to me. You will not find it. Or Ambarish Maharaj, he never said, okay, that, Shringi, he really, abused his power in regards to myself, but I will forgive him. No. It's transcendental. And what is transcendence? It means that you do not see it as a problem at all. And so transcendence means you see Krishna behind that problem. Krishna's smiling face. And it's pretty hard, but this is Vaishnava approach. And so that means you will have to think of your problem, about your problem. And next, you would have to ask yourself a question. What can I thank Krishna for in regards to this problem? How Krishna is helping me to advance, and how Krishna is showing his mercy through that problem. Yes.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, Krishna consciousness is the top. But once you start practicing that, it will become easy.
Sometimes tolerating causes more problems than people try to exploit it more and more. And then,
Can you speak a little louder? I'm getting better.
sometimes tolerating causes more problems. If you keep on tolerating, people try to exploit you more. And
That's
in that
right.
case, what you put it to, again, surrender to Krishna every time, or we have to act on our own as well sometimes.
Yeah, this is what I was mentioning. Sometimes our actions causing problems, and sometimes our inactions are causing problems as well. So we have to understand Krishna, basically speaking. What Krishna really wants me to do in that regard. We have to understand Krishna's will.
So we have to find out what Krishna wants to do. Like Arjun, he could have
But, if we could, take an action and even discipline people. Basically speaking, conflicts, if we're talking externally, are happening because of two reasons. We have our territories, something which allotted to us by Krishna, Ishavasi Madam Sarvam. Krishna gives everyone one share. And so conflict is basically, it is either someone stepping into our territory, encroaching upon our share, or we are encroaching upon somebody else's share, right? And then if we are encroaching upon somebody else's share, that means we become aggressors. And if we allow others to encroach upon our share, we become victims. And so both of these positions are useless. Position of victim and position of aggressor. But what is the perfect position?
Seeing Krishna.
No territory at all.
But seeing and understanding is internal, but what's its external perfect position? It's my personal observation and conclusion that perfect position to have, and it might sound really surprising, but it's a position of a kind aggressor. Kind aggressor, right? Because, this is Arjuna's position, right? That Arjuna wanted to, victimize himself for the sake of, everyone's benefit, but Krishna said, no, you fight, but you don't have any negativity inside. You fight out of compassion. And so, if you look at it, position of Vaishnavas, perfect Vaishnavas, always been kind aggressors, right? Even Prahlad Maharaj. He was not trying to, avoid, right now we're going through those verses. That when Hiranyakashipu challenged him, he said, I'm the most powerful, and how dare you are to challenge me, because, there is no one more powerful than me, and where are you getting your power? Why are you challenging me? And Prahlad Maharaj says, you're not the only one. I also have powers, and many other people have powers, and it all comes from the Supreme Lord. And so he's challenging, he's like, Hiranyakashipu is attacking him, he talks back, He's acting as an aggressor, and he's not afraid of Hiranyakashipu. But at the same time, he has no vested interest in that, he's not like acting on the basis of his false ego. That's why he's completely protected. Yes?
Following on from the question, we are always told that you should tolerate and forgive. But in that first question where you said the three fingers pointed towards us, the first question is, are we causing that problem? Initial stages of the conflict or wherever, do you think if we distance ourselves from the issue or the aggressors, if we can, is that possible to get ourselves out of that situation? If that can help us to give us toleration and things, would that be possible so that we distance ourselves from the situation or the conflict?
Well, if we have to tolerate and forgive, it means that it's not yet resolved. We haven't transcended it yet.
Yes.
And Krishna conscious approach, that all these kind of mundane approaches through forgiveness, through tolerance, it's good, it's more than goodness, but it's all material. You will tolerate once, you will tolerate twice, and then you will run out of your tolerance.
Yes.
And you will forgive, and as they say, you can forgive and forget, but keep the list of the names just in case. And so it's actually happening. We keep the list within in, our subconscious.
So it's not true resolving the problem.
It's not
Yeah,
really
you're just putting it on the
resolving,
back burner.
Yeah, it's just, destroying the weed on the surface, but the root
Yeah.
is still in the ground. Yes.
You mentioned about the cause of the problem could be something which we should have done, or sometimes something which we didn't do it that we should have done. But doesn't it actually come through experience? Like sometimes we don't know exactly what Krishna wants us to do, so we might do something stupid, but then we learn from it and then we implement it. But then the next situation could be different. So there's not a consistent rule. So in life, like you deal with different problems. So that's why that's my confusion. Like you might
How
try
do
to
I
do.
understand what
You
Krishna
might
wants?
you might do something from your past experience, but that might not be relevant to the present situation. It might cause. So how do we understand what Krishna wants us from us?
Yeah. Well, in Nectar of Devotion, there are 6 features of devotional service listed. And first one is freedom from all miseries, and then it's beneficial for everyone, and then it gives you happiness, etc., etc. So, if it is Krishna conscious, it will have all these features. You will have no problem with that at all, and it's going to be good for you and for the other party, and you'll feel happy by doing that. So that's Krishna conscious approach. You can be completely sure that it's the right thing. Good for everyone, so that's really good criteria, But sometimes good for everyone could mean that we would have to discipline somebody. We would have to, stop someone from doing bad things as well. It could be like that as well. And actually anger, it's really deep verse. I mean, this 256 is amazingly deep, because attachment, fear and anger, many times fear comes because of, anger comes because of fear. Actually, fear and anger, if you think about it, it's the 2 sides of the same coin. And many times anger is, it's not just many times, it's always anger is caused by fear. So there is some deep fear we have inside of us. We have to give up. Yes.
Just something on that point where it says sometimes action causes the problem and sometimes inaction causes the problem. So I think the point comes down to, and practically speaking, it's very difficult to understand where we should act and where we should not act. So
Yeah, from my observation, I can tell that, devotees mostly have problems because of inaction. It's more the case than action. They, inaction because of fear. And by avoiding action, we are creating more problems than with the action.
If I can ask, and is that fear of what? Is it because sometimes I do my inaction because I don't want to get into unwanted trouble that will disturb my chanting or my spiritual life. So, from material sense, I say I don't get involved in it. But then because of the inaction, it creates problems. So, is that my fear is I don't want to get into trouble, like unwanted trouble. So that's a good thing to do, like. But
unwanted trouble is one thing, but you cannot avoid trouble in the material world. And trying to avoid one trouble, you're creating bigger trouble. And so, of course, it's always a way to act. For example, speaking, right? That sometimes we don't want to tell someone what we have to tell, because we might think, oh, the person will be offended by my words. But then again, we can look at the chapter 17 and describe austerity of the mind, speech, and the body. I think it's 14, 15, 16, right? If I'm not mistaken, in that area. And so, austerity of speech, anudvega karamvakyam satya, anudvega karamvakyam satyam priyam hitam shayat. So, austerity of speech has to, we have to speak in such a way that it's satya, it's truthful, priya, pleasing, and hita, beneficial. So these three criteria are absolute. And then it has to be undisturbing and according to Vedic conclusions. And so these three criteria are really important. That we have to learn to say the truth without distorting it, but telling it in a pleasing way. So that we have to practice. And one of the best ways, of course it's a big subject matter, the best way to help someone to understand what they don't want to understand without disturbing them would be by asking relevant questions. Because through questions you can help one understand anything. And it's actually more solid because through questions people come to their own conclusions, and so it's much more effective than telling them. And it's more than technique, what is the advantage of Vaishnava approach over, all the professional kind of, personal development approaches? Because they teach the technique, but they don't help one to develop the proper mentality, most of the time anyway. But, if you have the right attitude, that you want to benefit yourself and the other party, Krishna will give you the intelligence how to say things. You just have to completely give up all selfish motivations and really want to benefit yourself and others, and so Krishna will help you, to communicate it in a proper way. Alright, so we are going to finish in a minute. Maybe Damodar Prabhu can say something.
No.
It's if you liked what you heard today, it was blessings of Damodar Prabhu, because he is a high-level professional for so many years, and so I've learned many things from him. And so it's a kind of blessing, his presence. Even though he didn't say anything, but just by being here. Okay, question? Alright, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Please take one shake for yourself.